What's up guys, Spin Firearms here, and today we're going to be talking about a handgun that has been discontinued. The newer line of CZs have been getting mixed reviews. A lot of good ones, a lot of people really liking what they're doing with the line, but also a lot of reliability issues. And you know, sometimes that happens on new releases and new firearms, but guess who doesn't get that? Glock. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about the CZ P-07. And the reason why I have two other handguns on the table is we're going to basically compare to them, talk about what I love about this handgun and what I wish it was and stuff like that. Now, right here, the CZ P-07 is a hammer-fired handgun with a 15+1 capacity. Obviously, it takes the larger CZ P10 magazines, right? So this mag right here, in my CZ P10C, obviously cleared and safety check prior to the video, can take the same mag and vice versa. So if you stay in that line of CZ, you can use your magazines across the board, which is definitely a benefit, especially with the way things are going in our world today. Now on top of that, this model right here is a Decocker model. Double action, single action handgun. My buddy actually picked it up used, a little bit over a month ago, and I actually got to go shooting the very first day he picked it up, and we tested it out. Now, the number one thing you notice immediately is that low bore axis. So my CZ P10C is a relatively low bore axis. Look at it compared to the P-07. It's absolutely ridiculous. It actually looks pretty dang cool. And when you rack it, it feels really weird because it's such a tiny slide, right? But it does rack like butter, as all CZs tend to do, right? Same with this. Now, obviously it comes with a rail. Awesome stippling right here. Just like the CZ P10C, there's some great stippling right here. And I believe you picked it up for $400 to $450, somewhere in that range. This reminds you to keep that finger off the trigger when you're not actually shooting or aiming at your target. This right here you can use as a little bit of traction, a little bit of friction, and for point shooting as well. Now, like I said, double action, single action with the Decocker. So if you want that single action trigger pull, it's definitely something you are going to have to get used to. And then there's that double action trigger pull. A little heavy, but it's definitely shorter than what I'll show you in a second. So single action, super nice, light and crisp. Double action. So if you're carrying it in double action with that Decocker, your follow-up shots are going to be ridiculous. The one thing I do want to say about it is you do have to get used to it. It's not like your Glocks. It's not like your average Smith & Wesson. It's not like your average Springfield. You're going to have to get used to that long, heavy double action trigger pull at first. That is relatively predictable. You see that? Stops at the wall. A little bit of a rolling break, but an awesome, awesome double action trigger pull. And then I should show you reset. Decent reset. Not the shortest, not the longest. Pretty much perfect for self-defense. Now, CZ P10C. Obviously, this is striker fired, though, so it's a little bit different of a system. Therefore, it's going to have a little bit shorter reset. But the single action on this is absolutely ridiculous. So once you get that first round off, and that is the one thing I want to say, that is what you need to train with the most. You need to train with that first shot. You can't run this cock and locked, right? So you have, oh, sorry, no diddy. You have to run it double action. That trigger in single action is way too light, which is a good thing. It's super, super nice. But your safety is that long, heavy trigger pull. Now, a nice size trigger guard for gloved fingers. And on top of that, they already have some grips on here. So I never got to feel the original texturing. But I assume because it is CZ, it's some solid texturing. Also came with different back straps, a lanyard loop. Like I said, 15-round mags. Overall, everything about this handgun is really nice. One thing that they don't have on this is an optics ready version, at least that I know of. I think the new ones are, but not this version, but that's not a problem. I carry plenty of handguns without a red dot. I rarely ever carry with a red dot, and I prefer iron sights, right? So that's not a problem at all. Some people, that's a game changer for it, but for me, it's definitely not. I could care less as long as I like shooting it and as long as it's been reliable. Now, shooting it, very, very little recoil. Compared to the CZ P10C, it handled recoil like an absolute champ. This is a little bit lighter, but on top of that, has a much higher bore axis. This thing right here is just meant for fast, flat shooting. But like I said, you do have to get used to that trigger before you can actually use that trigger in the way you'd want to. But it is what it is. If you're used to double action, single action, it'll be like nothing to you. Really nice high beaver tail on that thing, which still allows that bore axis to sit really, really low and feels really good in your hand, and that's why it handles recoil so well. Now let's do a size comparison, both 15 rounds. I'll throw the mag in just for size. If you can find one of these used, pick it up. It's an absolute gem. So obviously, because of mags, they're going to be pretty close in size, which they are, other than that lanyard loop. And then up top, here's from beaver tail to beaver tail, and here's from slide to slide. And there's barrel to barrel. So the CZ P-07 has a tad bit smaller barrel than the CZ P-10C. Same finish, which is just flawless. Absolutely love the finishes that they put on their CZ handguns. You really can't beat it. I've never seen anyone complain about rust. Now up top, he ended up getting it with Dawson precision sights. So that's another benefit. If you buy it for, the price you did, you have these really nice sights on there. Now the CZ P-10C, this was about $680. Shout out to my buddy Heg. And right here, you had excess sights on there. I do like the Dawson Precisions, but I also am really used to the excess sights, so I would have to say I like these better, but you can't beat these for buying a handgun for $400 to $450. You really can't beat this package right here. It is solid as can be, reliable as can be, super shootable. Now, the one critique I have about it, I love everything about this handgun. The one critique that I have about the CZ P-10C is it's too big for me to carry. I carry my CZ P-10S instead. The one thing I would like different is, here's my HK P-2000 SK, and obviously it's cleared, right? This has a nice single action trigger pull, and it also has the Decocker in the rear for a little bit lighter of a double action trigger pull. But I would say this is a better overall trigger, crisper, and a better single action, more controllable. I do like the size of the P-2000 SK better. I like this handgun better overall, but if they made it this size, to where you can still use the larger mags, like allow us to use that 12-round CZ P-10S mag, even with the slide length, I'd be perfectly fine with that. Right here, obviously the HK is in 40, but if you look at the overall size of it, that matters when you're carrying. It really does. And then up top, so if they made it a little bit smaller, I think it'd be the ultimate carry gun. I have a hard time concealing a handgun like this, but of course you're going to get full 2.5 finger contact with this handgun, and it is an absolute shooter. Now, for the price, like I said, if you find one used for $400 to $450, jump on it. You have to grab it. It is a gem of a handgun, and I'm not completely sure why they would discontinue a handgun that they know is reliable, true, and tested. I just don't understand that from CZ, but it is what it is. This, for me, would be a home defense, a range toy, a plinker, that whole sort of thing. I would not carry this, but I also don't carry this. So, it is what it is. The CZ P-07, even though discontinued, is still an amazing option out there for everyday carry for people who like carrying a compact, as well as home defense, like I said. Ergonomics are on point with it, too. Fits your hand like an absolute glove. It really does. And with the Talon grips on there, it does the same exact thing. This right here fits my hand a little bit better. And I would say if you have medium-sized hands or small hands, you may have a hard time shooting this thing well. From the back of the grip to the front of that trigger is actually pretty long. So unless you have size large hands or above, you're probably going to struggle shooting this thing accurately. And that's nothing to do with you shooting. It's how that trigger is when you actually have to pull it. It's far away, therefore your trigger finger doesn't land on the trigger the way you'd want it to, therefore you pull shots. But an awesome, awesome handgun. Definitely a gem. And honestly, it's a little bit saddening that they discontinued this thing. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope to get some range content with this thing pretty soon. Thanks for watching.